Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Positive Response Through the One Call System. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so that you know how to participate in today's event. We've taken a screenshot of an example of the attendee interface, and you should see something that looks like this on your own computer desktop in the upper right corner. You are listening using your computer speaker system by default, but if you would prefer to join over the phone, just select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenters by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your written questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. I would now like to introduce the session moderator, Tim Vaughn. Tim, take it away.
Thanks, Lucy. I'm Tim Vaughn from Kentucky 811. You will receive a survey about today's seminars, probably an email tomorrow, and we'd appreciate you to complete that and provide us some feedback. We'll also share an email with you in the coming weeks that give you access to all the recordings from all the presentations today. As Lucy mentioned, please submit your questions using the question panel on your screen. It is my pleasure to introduce the speaker for this session, Mr. Dan Lucarelli, who is the Executive Director of Underground Safety Alliance. Underground Safety Alliance is the umbrella organization for Indiana and Kentucky 811. Dan has more than 30 years of experience in the damage prevention industry. Prior to his role as Executive Director of USA, he served as Director of Marketing and Education for Pennsylvania One Call, providing direction and support for underground excavation and building advocacy and educational campaigns to promote the safe digging message throughout the Commonwealth. Dan holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Science from Slippery Rock University of Pennsylvania and a Master's of Business Administration from Katz Graduate School of Business at the University of Pittsburgh. He is a frequent speaker at the Common Ground Alliance, CGA Expo, and Conference and has been a featured author for Excavation Safety Guide and Directory and DP Pro magazine. Dan also serves as an active member of the CGA, the Pittsburgh Technology Council, and the American Marketing Association and Beta Gamma Sigma Business Honor Society. So please join me in welcoming Executive Director of USA, Dan Lucarelli.
Thank you very much, Tim. What I'd like to do today is to talk about positive response, and more specifically, positive response through the One Call Center, and talk a little bit about some of the things that we're attempting to work through and implement with our Exactix implementation next March. I have to start our presentation off by talking about our mission. Our mission is to lead Indiana and Kentucky in promoting safety and preventing damage to underground facilities by providing excellent coordination and notification services at a reasonable cost. That's the mission that we live every day at Indiana 811 and Kentucky 811. So in this session, we're going to learn about the definition of positive response, and more specifically, how we believe positive response is going to improve communications, safety, and damage prevention in Indiana and Kentucky. And more specifically, how we're working to improve positive response through the One Call system with Exactix, our new software platform that we're planning on launching in March of 2021. What is positive response? If you look at the CGA Best Practices Guide, CGA Best Practices defines positive response as communication with the excavator prior to excavation to ensure that all contacted, typically via the One Call Center, owner-operators have located their underground facilities and have appropriately marked any potential conflicts with the areas of planned excavation. So what this really means is that the operator will mark on the ground where their facilities are located and then tell the One Call Center. The One Call Center then collects all those responses and tells the excavator on the morning of the excavation. If the facility owner doesn't have any facilities in the area, typically they will say clear to the One Call Center. And that will be one of the responses that's provided on the document that's sent back to the excavator. It's really important to note that positive response by CGA best practices means communication via the One Call Center. We are really good at record keeping, and we're really good at communicating. If a member operator sends a message directly to the excavator that their facilities are marked or that their facilities are clear, the one call center doesn't know about it. And that means we can't keep track of it, or we cannot put it in the list of things that we send back to the excavator on the morning of excavation. So if you think about a ticket lifecycle for a minute, an excavator creates a locate request. That locate request is sent to the members who have facilities nearby. The member looks at the ticket and determines if their facilities are close, which means they'll go out and mark their facilities on the ground with colored paint, chalk, or flags. And if they're not close, they'll say clear. We'd like all that information to come back to the one call center so that we can send it back to the excavator on a single document. This is important to the excavator in that they're not receiving 10 or 100 or 1,000 emails from 10 or 100 or 1,000 different sources concerning the excavations that they have in progress because they're a relatively large company. We'd like all that information to be in a single document so that we can take advantage of what we know in the system. So if you look at the arrows on this screen, they're really one-way arrows. The excavator talks to the one call center, creates the locate request. The one call center sends the tickets to the operators. The operator marks where their facilities are located. The operator sends the ticket disposition to the one call center, and the one call center sends the dispositions back to the excavator. There's no conversation here. What we'd like to do with Exactix is to build a conversation. We'd like to build a communications hub and be the record keeper. If you were in the sessions earlier today, you saw a feature in Sunshine 811 where on ticket creation, the excavator creating the ticket could add an attachment to the ticket. And that attachment could be a worksite image, a PDF, some other information that's available to everybody who has access to that ticket for view and for action. But it's still one way. We'd like to expand the positive response system in Exactix to be a two-way communication, a ticket blog, so to speak, so that everybody who has investment in this particular ticket can participate and view all of the information that has been collected about this ticket or about this site, so it's available. Good example. Send a ticket, create a image of the white line. When the locator shows up, he can view the image, or she can view the image and get a better understanding of where facilities need to be marked because they have a picture of where the excavation is going to occur. But we want to expand that to a two-way conversation so that if the facility owner has a question, the facility owner can contribute to the blog, and the excavator can see that contribution or question in the ticket blog and respond. And because we're really good at keeping records, we can keep those records on behalf of the facility owner, on behalf of the excavator, on behalf of the third-party locating company, with our normal records that we keep with the tickets and everything else that we do for record keeping. So in concept, Florida did a good job. We want to build on that by making the arrows that you saw in terms of the life cycle of the ticket two-way arrows to communicate amongst stakeholders at the ticket level. In Kentucky, there is a concept being floated around in legislation where the legislators want non-facility members to contribute to responses. It's a little bit different in that Kentucky is one of two states that does not obligate facility owners to be members of the one-call system, Alaska being the second. And legislators are seeing that communications amongst stakeholders are important. It has been exceedingly difficult for lots of political reasons that I don't want to talk about today to get mandatory membership in Kentucky. But damage prevention really is all about conversations. It really is about keeping everybody informed. So the legislators in Kentucky are considering asking the one-call system, Kentucky 811, to be able to collect responses from non-facility owners. So we thought about it for a while. And we said, yeah, we think we can do it. That would mean that when the excavator received the ticket, the excavator would have knowledge as to which facility owners near his area of excavation aren't members of the one-call system, and would be able to forward the ticket to those members or those facility owners, really, because I don't know who they are. If I knew who they were, if I knew who they were, I would try and convince them to be members. So the excavator creates the ticket. We would send the ticket to our members that are nearby, just like we always do. And a copy of the ticket would be sent to the excavator, who would be obligated to send it to non-member facility owners that he was aware of near his area of excavation. That means the non-member would look at the ticket. They would say, hey, this is something that's near my stuff, so I will go out and mark the ticket, and then have a mechanism to log into Exactix and post his response along with all the others. This means then when we send the responses back to the excavator, probably on the morning of the excavation, it would include additional information from non-member facility owners about whether they have facilities that are clear or marked. The caveat here is that we won't know if there are non-members there, if the non-member chooses not to respond. What we do know, though, is that non-member facility owners, if they do contribute, we have an opportunity to learn more about them so that we can ask our liaison team in Kentucky to visit those folks and try and figure out how it makes sense for that non-member facility owner to become a member of Kentucky 811. So there's a lot of opportunity here for us to improve the communications, increase the communications, and record the communications amongst stakeholders at the ticket level. And what we've learned in damage prevention is that the more conversations that we have amongst stakeholders concerning excavation, the more opportunity we have to prevent damage. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish. What I will say again is Exactix is mobile. It has the ability to run on phones and tablets. And on phones, what you're seeing is an actual session on a phone where the facility owner is looking at responses. Yeah, facility owner is looking at responses. So this is the application that is in development as we speak today. And this is functionality that will be available to excavators at launch. What you're seeing is tickets near me from an excavator perspective. So this particular excavator has placed tickets where you see all those blue icons on the map. And as he gets closer to the map, it will gradually expand to include the notification or excavation area that was on the ticket. And he can drill down into the particulars of the ticket as well. From a member perspective, this same screen will show the tickets that the member has received because they've indicated they wanted to receive tickets in this area because they have facilities nearby and can do similar work. Drill down, look at the notification area, view details on the ticket. That will be available at launch. If you have a tablet in the field, the tablet is fully functional to create tickets. And after launch, 4IQ Solutions, the developer of Exactix, has in their development plans to increase the functionality of the phone application that you see so that we'll be able to create tickets from phones as well. I'm answering this question at all the sessions that we have today. We are on target to launch Exactix by March 31st of next year. We expect to have a near development ready or near production ready version of Exactix ready well in advance of that. And we will ask our stakeholder group, excavators in particular, members included, to create your user ID and to participate in the training and testing in advance of March 31st so that you're ready to go as soon as we launch and cut from our current software to Exactix. So please pay attention to your email and please find a way to develop and devote some resources to the testing of Exactix, which is critically important to us so that we can have a successful and smooth launch. This is the same slide that we had earlier from the excavator, Exactix for Excavator session. Yes, of course, we're going to prioritize high volume web ticket users before we get to the point where we're asking lower quantity of web ticket users to participate in training. Your best opportunity if you want to get higher on the list, so to speak, is in November and December. Please create as many of your tickets online as possible. And if you're not a web ticket entry user now, I would encourage you to go through the process to become web ticket user so that you can start getting on the list and we can ask you for to create your user ID, to participate in the training that we're going to offer online, and also to help us with the qualification and testing of the system to identify things that we have to correct before launch. That's all I have from an abstract perspective. That's really where we're headed and the conversations that we're going to be having with 4IQ Solutions in terms of the definition of what we mean by two-way conversations. We expect that we'll have two-way conversations, not just the one-way conversation that you saw in Florida. And as we get more details, we'll be more than happy to share them with our stakeholder community. And with that, I will open this up to questions.
All right, Dan, thank you. And thanks to everyone who's already submitted a few of our early questions. And we'll go ahead and start to work through a few of those. And the first one we have here is, will the software push the positive response out, or will the excavator have to look at the ticket?
That is a conversation that we're going to have with 4IQ Solutions. It's really a business rule kind of opportunity. I've gotten a lot of feedback from folks that want to be proactively contacted when something happens, which means push notifications from us to the excavator or member. I don't know how that's going to scale, so we have to take a really close look at that. I know it's a very important feature for a lot of folks. So that said, we're going to take a very close look at it and see what we can do.
Okay, we have a few similar questions about being eligible for being part of the early phase, related to someone saying, I'm low volume, but I'm interested, and I'm usually high volume during peak season, but I'm low volume in the winter. So I wanted to, if maybe you could speak a little bit to how that's going to be determined.
That's a great question. Thank you for your interest in helping us to test and to learn and to train. We believe that we're going to use the criteria in terms of number of tickets, and I think the time frame for those number of tickets that are created is going to be more than just a month or two as you're ramping down. So if you've created a bunch of tickets, and I get the sense that you've created a lot of tickets, I can expect that you'll be on the list to be contacted to create your user ID, participate in the training, and participate in the testing.
Thank you. This one I think might be someone who doesn't currently use positive response in any way. Are there positive response buttons in the Exactix app for members due to us being a member and an excavator, but not having a positive response system? So I think it's how to maybe get onboarded, might be what they're asking.
So if you are a member, you do have an obligation to provide the disposition of every ticket that you receive to the excavator. So you can contact the excavator directly, which is what's happening a lot today and what I don't encourage. What I do encourage is that you have a role with your user ID that gives you the ability to A, create tickets as an excavator. That's easy. B, respond to tickets as a member. That's also easy. So if you have a user ID and are a member and an excavator, we would ensure that that functionality is available to you in either the tablet app or the phone app. So you'll be able to respond to tickets on the phone app while you're in the field. We did not show you the response codes in responding to a ticket in the app, but it's very, very easy to do. You select the ticket, you click on the response button, and you choose from the list of responses, and it gets sent. Very easy to do.
This one goes a slightly different direction. I'm an administrator and the only one with a user ID at my company, but I want my field staff that does the actual work to, on a mobile level, be able to log in and see those statuses on positive response. Will they need a user ID or not? Because they won't actually be adding tickets, they're just checking tickets.
Every user who interacts with the system should have their own unique user ID. For the administrator of that stuff, we can grant all of the administrator roles that you're used to today. For the folks that you want to be able to check the status of responses or tickets, we can grant only the ability for them to check the status of their tickets without any read or read-write capabilities. But we do want every single user of the system to have their own unique user ID so that we can track them. So when you ask us a question, hey, has Fred used the system? I can say, yes, Fred uses the system, and here's how.
That makes sense. Next question up. When we call 811 and lines are properly marked and we accidentally hit a line, will we still be fined? And I don't know the state of this person, so that obviously would play into that, but maybe a larger question about responsibility as it relates to positive response.
That's really a question that's outside the scope of what we're talking about today. I would encourage you to visit the IURC website and ask questions. They have the ability for you to ask questions on their website. If you have difficulty in finding where to ask that question, please send us an email at exactix@usa811.org, which is on the bottom of the screen, and we'll be happy to help you.
All right, next one up is a pretty specific positive response question. Today, operators can only enter certain positive response codes. In the future, can those codes be expanded? Also, can we load pictures or maps of what was located to indicate progress on projects?
The short answer to the first part of that question is probably. We are intentionally keeping the current response codes the same for the launch of Exactix but I've gotten feedback from folks that the current list of response codes might not be broad enough to address everybody's specific needs. It's something that we can certainly take a look at. I know that some of the committees at the Indiana 811 are looking at it, but it's something we can certainly look at and expand if we need to, okay?
That second part was about loading pictures or maps of progress.
Right now today, Florida gives you the ability to add pictures at ticket creation. We want to expand that ability to have a two-way conversation so that, yes, you can add pictures in the field during the locate portion of the ticket lifecycle. That's where we're headed.
And this is one you had mentioned about non-members. Someone was curious how Indiana Kentucky 811 is able to determine who the non-members might be.
We don't know.
Yeah.
We're expecting that the excavator will know who the non-members will be, and the excavator will forward a copy of the ticket to those non-members, because we don't know who they are. If we knew who they were, they'd probably be members.
Yes. For the two-way communication, will there be an API available for third-party software to report response to a ticket?
Not at launch. It is certainly in the product development plans for 4IQ, which is one of the reasons why we chose them.
See, on a company level, will multiple users be able to refresh other users' locates via the new software?
Oh, that's a really good question. You guys are going deep quick. I don't know the answer to that question, so please send it to Exactix at usa811.org. We'll be happy to research it and reply to the email.
Will positive response information be available for damage investigations?
Darby or Aaron, if you're on the call, it's something that we have to talk about.
We'll leave that one at that.
Wow.
With multiple excavators on the same site, will there be a sharing of conversations through the program, i.e. piggybacking?
No.
Straightforward, but you're right. Will an emergency locate have an audible tone for those who will use Exactix on their phones? Wow.
That's a really good idea. I like that idea. I don't know. We hadn't thought about it. Please send that to Exactix at usa811.org, and I will be more than happy to have a conversation with 4IQ about that. That's a great idea.
Will we have two different IDs as a member and as an excavator? So a member utility that's also an excavator?
No. What we'll do is grant additional responsibilities and roles to that same user ID, so that same user ID can perform excavator functions and member functions.
Is there a date and timestamp for the positive response that we can see people auditing? So I guess from a documentation standpoint, how detailed will that be likely?
Yeah, I know that the positive responses will be date and time stamped. We really hadn't thought about exposing those date and time stamps outside of systems or administrators, but it's something that we can certainly consider. Please send that request to Exactix at usa811.org.
Here's a question about positive response and the responsibilities for excavators. So how would that affect, are excavators responsible to cross-check all impacted facility operators on the ticket and affirm they have either been marked out or responded? They have not yet been marked out. So kind of how does the positive response get used from an excavator responsibility standpoint?
So let's think about the excavator for a minute. He places a ticket. That ticket is available to view from him in Exactix. As responses come in, there is a responses tab on the ticket that he looks at that will give him the disposition of all of the responses that Exactix is expecting from facility owners. So he'll be able to see that facility owner X has responded marked. Facility owner Y has responded clear, and there's still 3 or 4 facility owners on the list that have yet to respond to the ticket. I think that answers this question.
Training. Will there be training required? Use positive
Yes.
response.
Well, not to use positive response, probably not. We think that the interface is kind of intuitive, but we'll certainly have training resources available if the person is not comfortable with how the interface works and how to effectively use it. And all those training resources will be online.
If a user wanted to be able to share a ticket and the status of it through positive response with a colleague, is there a link or share function that's planned?
If the colleague is a member of their same company, everybody at that company can see every company ticket. Remember that ticket data isn't public data. So the only folks who have a right to see that ticket is the creator of the ticket, the company employees of the creator of the ticket, and the members who have received the ticket. So if his colleague is included in that community of users, then yes, they'll be able to see the ticket.
Do you have any idea on if this new system will entice more members to participate in positive response?
That is our goal. We want to make positive response a valuable resource for damage prevention. And the way that we make the system more valuable is to get more people to participate. So our intent is clearly to demonstrate the benefits and the value to our members, to our excavating community, to our third-party locating community, and encourage them to use positive response and involve themselves in these conversations that we're trying to build in the system so that we can all work towards preventing damage.
And this is a question about how it ties into working days. If you get a positive response, and I'm assuming this question is going with from all affected utilities on the ticket, if you get a positive response for the 2 full working days, will you be able to start work earlier than the 2 full working days? Is the law going to need to change for that to happen? I'm in Indiana.
I believe Indiana says if all the members have responded, you can start excavation work. I think that answers the question.
Will the locator contact information be included on the ticket?
Oh gosh, I hope so.
Yes. I think that was the layup question so far.
But that's really something that is under the control of the member, because the member provides us with the information of who they want contacted in the event that there is a question about this ticket in this service area. So if the member provides us with that information, we'll provide it on the ticket.
Will there be an admin within each company who will, or will there be an admin who will have the ability to reset passwords for users other than contacting Exactix?
Users can reset their passwords on their own without an administrator.
Will a utility with multiple ID codes be able to see those together on a single interface?
Yes.
Right. If a locator has not responded to a locate request, will a locate creator have to call into 811 to submit a second notice? So if there's a no response at all after the period of time has passed.
Yeah, the rules around that are not going to change. Exactix is not going to cure cancer.
Would Exactix be able to manage responses from a member's software?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Yeah. So if you can resubmit it with more detail, we'll be happy to address it.
Let's see. After sending a ticket to a non-member, how does the non-member know that they can respond to positive response to the one call center? So I guess it's kind of getting to that question of with non-members, it's tough to see that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I won't have any knowledge of non-members receiving tickets because we expect that the excavator who creates the ticket will forward the ticket to the non-member, and then the non-member will need to take action. If they take action, we will direct them to a web page on the ticket that walks them through how to respond to this particular ticket that they have been forwarded. So the process still needs to be defined and worked out and implemented and tested. But it's important to know that the conversation from our perspective will still be one way. The excavator will be obligated to send the ticket to the non-member, and then the non-member will have the option of responding to the ticket or not. If the excavator sends the ticket to the non-member and the non-member chooses not to respond to the ticket, I won't know that. I will know that if a non-member does respond to a ticket, we will know it, and we will include those responses in all of the responses, including the ones from members, back to the excavator.
And someone just asked a clarifying question about non-member discussion, about whether that's a both state issue or primarily a Kentucky issue.
We're implementing it in Kentucky because of the pressure for Kentucky. I expect that that functionality will also be available in Indiana, but it is less of an issue in Indiana because Indiana has mandatory membership and Kentucky does not.
Someone has a question about the likely timing for release of information to third-party ticket management software companies for compatibility.
Yeah, Exactix will be 100% compatible with everything at launch because we are not changing one single character of the ticket output format. So if they receive tickets successfully today from our current software, they should receive tickets successfully when we launch Exactix. Our definition of a successful launch is that you won't know that we launched because the tickets will look exactly the same.
Will post-locate photos be uploaded to Exactix?
We're hoping that that two-way conversation can include post-locate photos as well.
And this might be a little bit more, and this may fall into the member, but someone's asking that not all tickets have contact info. What is it possible for there to be generally 800 numbers so you don't have to Google, especially for a small company?
Yeah, the contact info that we have on file is the contact info that the members provide to us. So if you're having troubles with contact info with members, specific members, please contact our member services department and we can investigate it and try to correct that information. And that really is a business process issue and has nothing to do with the software.
All right, see if we have anything else coming in. I think we're getting pretty close to the end of our time. It's certainly been a very, this might be one good final question because we did talk a bit about non-members and you mentioned it's mandatory to be a member in Indiana. If there are non-members, what's the process for reporting the fact that there's a non-member in Indiana?
Please contact your closest liaison team member. The map of where those liaison team members are responsible for are on both the Kentucky and Indiana websites, and the liaison team member will be more than happy to follow up with that non-member to encourage them to become a member of Indiana or Kentucky 811.
Then I've gotten a few questions here about kind of the difference between this and mandatory positive response, and if you wanted to speak to that.
Yeah, right now, many states in their legislation say mandatory positive response, which means that the facility owner is obligated to provide the disposition of the ticket back to the one call center. Neither Kentucky nor Indiana 811 have mandatory positive response in their legislation. We are hoping that the positive response through the one call system that we're working to implement in Exactix will have enough benefit and value that we'll get more and more participation of positive response from members and this conversation that we're trying to build between stakeholders. Legislation does not require mandatory positive response through the one call system in either Indiana or Kentucky.
And then the final question I have here, is it fair to say when you test Exactix for a trial, should it be, will it be after January 1st?
Yes, that's very fair. We expect that we'll start contacting folks for testing and to create your user ID. I would expect the end of January or the first couple of weeks in February.
All right, well, I think that brings us here to the end, and I want to thank you, Dan, and everyone who attended and asked a lot of great questions that made this hopefully a productive time for everyone. As a reminder, we will be sending out a survey tomorrow via email. We hope that you will complete that and let us know what you thought about the first ever virtual Midwest Damage Prevention Training Conference and this session in particular. And we have one final session coming up in 15 minutes, a chance for you to have some fun, win some prizes at trivia here to close things out at 4 o'clock Eastern. So we look forward to seeing you there, and thank you all for attending.